There's a moment that happens quietly for most people, not dramatic, not loud, but unmistakable. It's the moment where something inside you realizes this isn't me. You might still be functioning, still achieving, still showing up in the way that you always have, but underneath it, something feels a little off, a little disconnected, a little heavy maybe, like you've drifted from something real. And what I've come to understand through my own experiences and through coaching over 10,000 people over the last 21 years is that this feeling isn't a problem, it's a signal. It's your soul calling you home. And when people hear that phrase, come home to yourself, it can often sound quite abstract. Let me explain what it means to me. Coming home is not becoming somebody new. It's not about fixing yourself or upgrading who you are. It's about returning to what is already true underneath everything that you've learned over the years. Because most of us didn't wake up one day feeling disconnected from ourselves. We've been conditioned away from ourselves. We've learned to be who we needed to be, to feel safe, to be accepted, successful, to be loved. And we've learned to prioritize approval over truth, performance over presence, expectation over alignment. And over time, we build a life that works, but sometimes it doesn't quite feel like our own. So coming home to yourself is really the process of gently undoing all of that. Not by forcing change, but by remembering what feels true, what feels right in your body, and what brings you back to a sense of clarity and steadiness. When you're not living as your true self, your whole system feels it. Even if your life looks good on the outside, you can be doing everything right and still feel completely disconnected. You start to overthink everything. Decisions feel heavy because you're trying to work them out from your mind instead of feeling into what feels actually right for you. You feel tired in a way that sleep sometimes just doesn't fix. Not just the physical, but emotionally and mentally fatigued. There's a kind of constant underlying exhaustion. You second guess yourself, even when you know sometimes the answer deep down. You override it because you're looking outside of yourself for reassurance instead of trusting what already feels true to you. And often there's a quiet sense of emptiness, not because your life is lacking, but because you are. And it's important not to think that you're a failure because you're not failing, it's not failing, but it's your system recognizing misalignment. So naturally, the next question is, if this is so important, then why don't more people come home to themselves? And the truth is that it requires something most of us haven't been taught. It requires honesty, real honesty with yourself. So to come home to yourself, you have to be willing to see where you've been performing, where you've been choosing what looks right over what feels true. And more than anything, where you've been staying in things that no longer align to you. And that can feel really uncomfortable, because coming home to yourself often means things begin to shift. Not always dramatically, but internally in a way that starts to affect how you live, how you relate to yourself, to others, and what you tolerate, what you choose. And for many people, it feels safer to stay where they are, even if it doesn't feel good, than to step into the unknown. But what I will say is this, and it's quite important actually, is that the longer you stay disconnected from yourself, the louder your life will become. Meaning that your body will speak, your emotions will intensify, your sense of dissatisfaction will grow, not to punish you, but to remind you, to give you that nudge, to bring you back. And when you do start to come back to yourself, something really powerful begins to happen. Life just doesn't suddenly become perfect, but it becomes clearer. You stop forcing decisions that don't feel right. You begin to trust your inner guidance, even when it doesn't make logical sense straight away. Your nervous system starts to settle. It kind of starts to reset, and there's less internal conflict. Your relationships begin to shift, not because you're trying to change them, but because you show up differently, with more honesty, more clarity, more self-respect. And perhaps most importantly, you stop abandoning yourself. You start to truly deeply listen. You start to honor what you feel, and you start to choose in a way that is actually aligned with you. And from that place, life begins to move differently. Not because you're controlling it more, just because you're finally in it as yourself. So if you're listening to this and thinking, this is how I feel, but I want this, but I don't actually know what to do with it, let me make it very simple for you. And this is where you begin. First of all, take a piece of paper, grab yourself a pen, and write down these 3 questions I'm going to share with you. The first one is, what is draining you right now? Second one is, what feels true and good for you right now? And the third is, what is one thing you already know you need to change? And just sit with them for a moment. You don't need to figure out the whole answer. Your whole life does not need to be figured out today. You don't need a big plan right now. What you need is just an honest moment with yourself, because so often the reason we feel lost isn't that we have no answers. It's just that we keep avoiding the ones we already have. Maybe you already know why you're exhausted. Maybe it's because you're saying yes when you mean to say no. Maybe you already know that something in your life no longer fits who you're becoming. Maybe you already know you need more rest, more truth, more space, or even more courage. The starting point, remember, is not to fix everything, but it's to tell yourself the truth. And then from there, choose one small action you can take within the next 24 hours that honors what you wrote down. It doesn't have to be big. It might be have a conversation. It might be cancelling something you said yes to. And it might be creating just a little bit more of space for yourself. Or maybe just even admitting, I can't keep doing this in the same way. Remember, small, honest actions begin to build self-trust, and self-trust is one of the ways that we come home to ourselves. Because your soul isn't loud. It speaks more quietly than that. So the work is learning to stop overriding your natural default. And it is difficult because we have many layers and it's hard to hear ourselves clearly. But when we can start to heal the deeper parts of ourselves. And it doesn't mean to say that there is something wrong with you. Sometimes there's so much noise sitting on top of the truth that you need support to clear it. Remember, coming home to yourself isn't a one-time moment. It's a relationship. It's a relationship with yourself, with your truth, and with your inner guidance, with the part of you that you've always known deep inside. And the more you choose it, the more it becomes more natural to you. So if something in you has been feeling off, if you've been questioning your life, your direction, your sense of self, take that seriously. Listen to it because it's trying to guide you. You haven't lost yourself. You've just moved away from what is true. And you can come back to yourself anytime, gently, honestly, and at your own pace. And when you do, everything begins to shift into place. Thanks for being here today. It means a lot. And remember, you don't need to become somebody new. You just need to come home, back to you.